All right, everyone, welcome to the show, Tennessee Wildcast, Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency weekly podcast show. Glad to have you. Jason Harmon, I'm Doug Markham.
Good to be here, Doug.
Good to be here. Just got off of Dove Field the other day and telling one of my friends before the show started, I wasn't counting any birds this year. I was just taking photographs. That's all I'm going to do. How about you?
There wasn't a whole lot of photographs to take. The birds were kind of slim this year.
At Fields Our Own did okay, but I left them early, both of them, so I could go one to the next or whatever. And they were shooting pretty good. This is in Middle Tennessee. But typical dove season, some fields that are hot and some that are very not.
Yep.
And but you got a long way to go in the season yet. So.
Yeah. You got plenty of time to get out there and chase them around. And
and it's not cold yet, that's for sure, wherever you are.
Yeah, it's a hot September.
It is. It is. We've got a good show for you today. We'll introduce our guest in a minute. Let's talk about a couple of things real quick.
Okay.
Waterfowl hunters, this is your time of year where you can get out and at least get ready for the big season. We got another season opening up for you guys, and it's the wood duck and teal season opens up Saturday.
Yes.
And what's it go for? You got it up there somewhere. Goes for what, 5 days? And bag limit, I believe, on this is it's a little bit more than I thought it was. I think it's a total of 6, but no more than, if I recall, 2 wood ducks. That's correct. So make sure you check out the guide. Gives you a little chance to get out there. You've had the goose season going on. Now you got this going on. And getting you ready for when you get back out there in November.
That's page 18 in your guide.
Page 18 in the guide. That's right.
Quick reference there.
A lot of stuff you see on that. This small game, a lot of things are going to be opening in the next 6 weeks or so. But for now, just get out and enjoy what you can. Get out there and chase those dove. And there's one other thing starting in 2 weeks, though, that
deer season.
Yeah, that's going to get a lot of folks interested.
Yeah, that's what everybody's looking for. I've seen our website. That's been a lot of the hits on our website here lately.
It is. Folks are wanting to know what the rules and regs and season dates and all that kind of stuff. And, of course, the guide's out there. September 24th is when it starts.
Right.
And you got just about every day in October. I think the kids hunt right at the last weekend or so in October, the juvenile hunt. But a lot of archery time between now and then. Make sure you check out the guide because there's some unit changes and $2 a year. Make sure you understand that. But just study the guide for a few minutes. And if you are somebody that wants to get out and shoot archery and practice, you can call your regional offices and find out what might be local. I know in Middle Tennessee there's over in Franklin, or Cool Springs we call it, that area right in there. There's an archery range that's open every day for you to go out there. Even if you don't hunt, if you just want to go out there and practice, it's a cool little range out at the agriculture center there. And there's a lot of that kind of stuff across the state.
Yep.
So
Stones River here in Middle Tennessee is a big range.
That's exactly
if you
right.
want to get your gun sight in early for that time of year.
Yeah, and they have an archery range too.
They do.
It's just shooting at targets, but it's right there beside where everybody else shoots with their guns. So there's all kinds of that potentially out there. And speaking of ranges, since you brought it up,
well, you brought it up.
Oh, did you? Did I bring it up? Okay. There's the commission when they met, and we hadn't talked about this yet. When they met a couple weeks ago, they made a rule change or whatever term they applied to it. But if you are a license holder in Tennessee and you're going to shoot your rifle or your whatever at any of these ranges that are unmanned, that don't have an everyday, like Stones River is manned every day and when they're open, and a lot of cost to run it. But if it's an unmanned one, like a Cheatham WMA here in Middle Tennessee or Yanali WMA, they're listed in this guide and they're easy to tell in this guide. You don't have to buy a fee anymore. You don't have to pay a fee anymore. Right. You just go if it's unmanned. And so that's a good thing they did. If you have a license from Tennessee. If you have a license from Montana, you still got to buy the fee. So anyway.
It's a long way to come sight in a rifle or shoot your
never know what's going to happen. And if you haven't taken hunter education yet, you better hurry. So there's courses good that man we're going to talk to in a minute teaches a bunch of them. We're here to talk about fish today a lot, but we'll touch on that hunter education stuff too because he does a whole lot of it. And let's widen out and introduce him.
Yeah.
Mr. Bones. This is Darrell Bernd. Bones, we call him. And been around the agency almost as long as I have, maybe a little longer. I don't know.
About the same year, I think we got hired.
It's pretty close.
According to the time program Edison, I'm now officially 30 years in. So
you are 30 years in. Well, okay, I've only been here like 10, 12 years. Yeah. Anyway, we've both been here a long time. And
nose is growing Pinocchio.
We'll probably hit you with it in a minute. But anyway, we've been here both a long time, Bones, and you've worked in fisheries for a lot of that career.
And you're just going to hear that noise because our building's being worked on. So just hang in there, folks.
Yeah, we've heard it a lot. Anyway, You've been here a long time, mostly in fisheries, but you do teach hunter education courses.
Yes.
You spend a lot of time, what could be free time, really helping out folks. And hunter education's been important to you. Tell us about it real quick and why folks need to get it now.
If you don't get in now, the classes start filling up. The class for September the 17th, which is the field day class at Stones River, is already full with 50 students. Everybody waits to the last minute.
This is across the state,
this
too.
is across
right?
the state.
Everywhere.
This is, and we'll only have 1,200 instructors, and we can't have a class every weekend. And when we do have classes, they do fill up. And if you go ahead and get them now, you're better off, and you're ready and set and go. I had a gentleman call me last night saying, I'm going into Canada Saturday. Can I get my hunter education? And I'm like, no.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. And you do have adults that run into it in this time of year when they're going out to Colorado and different
That's
places.
gone on since you and I started, too,
Yes,
if
yes.
not before then.
After 103 classes in the last 3 years, it never
Golly.
ceases to amaze me how many people wait to the last minute on the hunter safety
And no
classes.
matter how much we tell them.
No matter how much we tell them.
And Bones was a couple of years ago, was named, I think you were named our Instructor of the Year, excuse me.
2013, I think me and Faye Hickerson shared that award. But without the volunteers, we wouldn't be able to do it. People don't realize between just the ones I work with, Eddie Cothran and Philip Ware and Chris Johnson and David Cole, from just people from all around the Middle State that I've had the pleasure to work with on classes and at the instructor workshop. We wouldn't be able to do it without our 1,200 volunteer instructors.
That's how many. Director Carter was on there last week, and he talked some about that, but I didn't know it was that many. 1,200
Yes.
volunteer instructors across the state.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, y'all do a great job, and it is time to take it. And Bones, do you recommend that people come in and come to the traditional classroom like you and Faye Hickerson teach, or is that online course pretty good?
The online course is real good, but due to the simple fact you do have to pay for it for $24.95, I think is what it's going rate. We do recognize 2 of them on the internet now. The traditional course where you're there 4 or 5, 3 days, just depending on how the instructor sets up the class, you get more hands-on approach, you get more one-on-one participation. On that field day, we have back-to-back field days a lot of time at Stones River, and I don't have the time to sit down and instruct maybe a smaller child who has not been proficient enough to show his ability. And a lot of times I have to sit and read the test to him and everything, which is no problem on a traditional class because we do have the time. But on the online course, when it's backed up like that, I don't have the time, and we're underneath that time constraint. And that online course will take you 7 to 8 hours because each chapter is timed. You can go in there and answer the question, but you're still going to wait 20 or 30 seconds before that timer counts off before you can move on.
Okay, so you can't cheat.
You can't cheat.
You cannot. You want your kids to get the best education they can and be safe out there in the woods, so in the fields, wherever you go. All right, Bones, we're here mainly to talk about fish, and this is a time of year. A lot of people interest it's in hunting, but there's a lot of folks that it's back to getting on that water and catching fish. The water is going to start cooling down, and to me, the streams that you're in a lot, they don't need to cool down. They're hot right now.
They're hot right now. This year we had that extra wet spring. Now we've gone through this extended dry spell. In my house, I hadn't had rain in about 14, 15 days now. As the creeks have gotten lower, they've gotten clear. There's still a lot of cold creeks out there that are running, but the fish are beginning to pack up for winter. These fish know that winter's coming on. The water's dropping. October is usually our driest month of the year. And as these fish feed food in and get the weight added in for winter, they're biting. They're ready to go. And people overlook September and October as time to get in these creeks, except for a few of the guys that I talked to on the internet. And you can have a field day out there. And you will be surprised at what an ankle-deep water will hold in some of these small creeks.
It would surprise you for sure. And there's a lot of creeks, and I want to get into the Creel Clerk stuff here in a minute. There's a lot of creeks out there that you can fish. You got to ask for permission, but we're blessed with creeks in Tennessee, and they're just now. I mean, they've been good all summer, but they're just now even getting
Well, you're looking
Correct.
at, just in the state of Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken, you're looking at 17,000 miles of creeks
Mm-hmm.
in the state of Tennessee. Duck River itself, 284
That's
miles
here in Middle
long.
Tennessee, right.
And
every tributary that comes into
every
it.
little tributary
Yeah.
coming into it and everything. As you're looking at all those creeks and rivers, a few of them pop up in my mind. The Garrison is it still holds our record as far as shocking. In 100 feet, we had 52 smallmouth in 100 feet.
Wow.
And Turnbull Creek in West Tennessee, in Dixon County, there it has an absolutely wild population of smallmouth above the water treatment plant for people who know where I'm talking about. But it's those creeks that stand out in your mind is unbelievable amount of smallmouth in these creeks and rivers, and people just are missing opportunity when they go to the lake and don't even think about that bridge that they just passed over on I-24.
Oh, I can remember years ago fishing in a creek over in West Tennessee, and it was in April. I'm thinking all those cars passing me, our trucks with boats on them were going to catch crappie, and I was catching rock bass just as quick as I could throw in it, because I was thinking these are creek crappie, and they're like creek crappie. But anyway, wonderful creeks that we have in Tennessee, and Bones has a book we're going to show you in a few minutes too. If you're big time into identifying fish, because we're going to do some of this on the show, we're going to show you that. But let's talk about creel clerking first. You're not a creel clerk now, but
Nope.
you were a creel clerk for a long time in Middle Tennessee. And I want folks to know what a creel clerk is across the state. They are so important to what our agency does, to the data that they collect that you can help us with. So tell us.
Creel Clerks, we've got the Cadillac programs of Creel Clerks in the Southeast because we man our lakes 12 months out of the year and 365 days. And now we're not out there every day, but it's a computer-generated random splattering, and we go out there and we collect the information as to what you're catching. We weigh and we measure the fish. We've done so many age growth studies throughout the years that we can tell basically how old that fish is by just the length and the weight of it. And each lake is a little bit different, so that's why we have different people on those lakes. And as we roam and count those people, we get a fishing pressure on those lakes. Now, a lot of states, believe it or not, here recently have been using trail cams and replacing the personnel with trail cams and taking time-lapse photograph, but there's still a person in that office looking at those photographs and going through that trail cam footage saying, okay, this person popped up on hour 1 and he left by hour 2. So we do it with people, and we do it with boats, and we do it with manpower. And when you are talking to these gentlemen and or ladies, that we did have a lady at one time doing creel, and you're providing information that the biologists are plugging in on that size limit or that creel limit, and making decisions based on what these people are collecting. And in the last couple of years, we've actually started doing tailwaters and checking the tailwaters. And one of the pictures you had that floated by was me on the Elk River there. So
Right, and we showed Al Bartolotto on one of the photographs a minute ago, and he was doing a survey. Part of what you do too, I know you're taking how long you've been out here, and can I see your fish, and what you got, and all that. But you also do surveys sometimes.
we're
don't
doing
you?
economic surveys, and we're seeing how much money that you spend as you go out fishing. We're not looking at increased prices on anything. We're just want to know how much fishing is generating money-wise across the state. And I actually had a gentleman looked at me one time when I creeled him on Thames Ford Lake, and I said, how much money did you spend today? And he said, about $310,000. And I looked at him and I said, do what? And he says, yeah, I just bought a house on the lake. We closed on it this morning just so I could go fishing here. So, you'd be surprised at how many people spend lots of money, just like with the Elk River survey. When we done that, we found that a large percentage of the people fishing Elk River was in the $50,000 plus range for
Economically,
for the annual income of that household. And you wouldn't think a county as small as Moore County and Lincoln County and Franklin County, those counties down there, which are rural, poorer counties, that the average income of the fishermen down there would be $50,000+.
Well, that's interesting. And but you also, I mean, when you do out there, are you just looking at one fish? I know I took some photographs of you a few years ago for the magazine where you were creeling trout anglers. Mm-hmm. So do you do cold water and warm water, or do you mostly just do specifically bass, or when you're krilling, is it about everything?
It's about everything and what you're angling for. And I've pulled up on people who had a ton of crappie in the boat. What are you out here fishing for? Well, I'm out here fishing smallmouth, but I keep catching these crappie, so I'm keeping them. You collect data on everything. The amount of time that they've been out there, how much money that they spend, where they're from, the distance from their house, and things like that. And that's another thing that's beginning to pop out, that people are basically, and I hate to say it, lazy. They go fishing close to the house. And that's another thing that's popping up in a lot of these surveys.
I think I'm lazy. I do that a lot. I don't travel as much as I used to, especially when you got a good lake nearby. You're down in southern Middle Tennessee, or down there a lot. You got Woods Reservoir, you got Timms Ford where you're talking about, you got Normandy. I'd be way lazy if I lived in that area down there.
Well, and we're very fortunate as a state. You can take just Nashville alone and draw a 90-mile circle around Nashville, a radius around Nashville, and look at the major lakes that you hit: Dale Hollow, Center Hill, Timms Ford, Woods Reservoir. Just unbelievable amount of water. And yes, you will get hooked on one lake and go there and become accustomed to it.
Get good at it.
And get good at it.
Well, some people get good at it. Anyway,
that's why you take pictures of birds instead of the birds.
That's exactly right. How do people act when you come up to them? How do they respond? Do you get different responses? Are people willing to work with a Creel clerk, or do some of them tell you go away?
90% are just ecstatic that you're checking them because they've never been checked by a game warden before. And we're not enforcing the law when we're doing Creel. We're just trying to collect data. Now, there are officers that are out there checking things, but that's not our primary goal as a Creel clerk. You're out there checking fish. You want to see what they got. And then there's 5% who are just absolutely mad because you've just interrupted them and just, they've made them stop fishing, and then you got another 5% who will drop the pole and run because they do think you're fixing to write them a ticket. So
I bet they didn't buy a license that day.
Normally, that's what happens. You'll be surprised how many poles get laid on the bank and the people running hiding the weeds up there. So
yeah, that's something. Are most of them that get mad at you? Are they tournament fishing?
Most of them are tournament fishermen, and that's what a good Creel clerk is going after. Time recognize this guy's fishing tournament. I can back off. I can come back later and catch them when they're all weighing out and talk to them and see what they've done then. And those tournaments are on time limits and things like that. And go ahead and count the person and make your roving count and put them in your numbers. But if you get a chance, wait till he's through fishing for that bass club and catch him at the ramp when he's loading out.
Do you know about how many, I don't know if Creel clerks talk to each other on a regular basis across the state, but do you know about how many Creel clerks we have from east to west?
I can't say right off the hand. I want to say like 12. There's not that many.
2 or 3 per region
yes.
to cover all the lakes.
Yeah, and then in my case, because Glenn and the other guy down at Normandy, who's recently went to another job, I fill in, and because I've done it before and can pick up the slack. So I'm unique in the fact that I can bounce back and forth. Todd St. John and my supervisor, Jim Pippas, allows me to do that. So
okay.
And it keeps me sharp when I'm out there talking to the guys.
Would Creel clerks, though, over in the eastern part of the state, I guess they're looking at, we showed a photo of you a minute ago with a guy holding walleye that had been caught on tailwater down in southern Middle Tennessee, but Creel clerks over in East Tennessee.
Zach's going to be mad at you.
Yeah, we're not going to say exactly where he was. I will tell you, I went back and had a pretty good day, too. Maybe not quite that good, but pretty darn good day. But anyway, that was Creel clerking from the bank. Do you do a lot of Creel clerking from the bank? Or do we?
Normally we don't. That's something that just got started because when you do Creel, you want to do it exactly repeated the same way over and over again, okay? And you want to do it totally at random. And when you're working from the bank, you're kind of trapped as to what spots you can go to and things like that. So it's not totally at random when you're working from the bank like that, but you still are getting data.
Okay.
And any data is good data, even if it's a big fat 0 for that day, and it's iced over, which I've had days out there on Woods Reservoir where there was a sheet of ice on the whole lake, and my supervisor called me up and says, "You mean there's not a single boat out there?" And I said, "No, it's about 4 inches of ice."
Yeah. Do you ever have those days, though, Bones, where you know it's going to be special, where you checking it and it's one of those days where everything's just, I don't know if the wind's out of the south and there's a full moon or whatever, where you start checking them and every boat has fish. Yes. Do those days happen?
Those days happen, and as a crappie fisherman, my favorite fish was the crappie. So I'm logging in my little notebook over here where all the crappie guys are at. and throughout the 10 years that I did it on a regular basis, the third week of January was the best week of the year.
Come on, the third week of
the
January?
third week of January. So when you're waiting for the dogwoods to bloom, you're done way too late.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable that the habits that you get into, and then you start logging everything. A lot of guys will look at me, and one of the best fishermen I know, he's done passed away now, was Clyde Hill on Woods Reservoir.
Yeah.
But he logged everything. Every day he'd take out his little book. It's like temperature 78, water fairly clear, and I use this and I caught that. And he would go back, and after 10 and 12 years, he would look at those days and say, oh, I need to be using this right here. And he would note those patterns, and that you couldn't beat Clyde Hill on Woods
Clyde
Reservoir.
Hill, the fish got a break. I hate that he passed away, of course, but they got a break when Clyde Hill passed away because he was one of the great fishermen down on Woods Reservoir
and see,
Middle
he
Tennessee.
would trim his apple trees and pear trees in his yard and things like that, and that's what he sunk for the brush in the lake.
Yeah.
Because he said those softwoods would attract more fish. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know.
Well, a lot of fishermen go when it's comfortable for them, so that's when fishing's good. And I agree that January can. And I've always heard the good guides and fishermen who love crappie in February and March. That's when they go out there and catch their big fish.
Whether it's fish or deer or armadillos, scouting is the key to everything. And if you're not out there logging this stuff down and scouting and going at least once a week, or even just listening to radio shows and just listening at the markets to the guys, you'd be surprised how much information you can pick up from just talking to people and saying, well, what was you using today? And most fishermen are pretty honest, except for that one-armed guy who caught a fish this big. Yeah.
All right. And let me ask you this, Bones. You got to get me back on my thought pattern after that. But there's a river down your way that maybe a lot of folks from outside of Middle Tennessee travel to. It's a pretty long trip from right here, but it's the Elk River. Mm-hmm. And the Elk River is a very long river. I think it runs down into Alabama. It starts out cold below Timms Ford Dam. Well, at least the part that I'm talking about. And it's got a headwater on it too. But where we're talking about is below Timms Ford Dam down into Alabama. How good a river is that?
The Elk River is a real good river, and Dr. Batoli doesn't think so, but it's slowly changing his mind too. We actually floated the upper end of the Elk River with kayaks the other day. We are and have seen pictures of muskie in Woods Reservoir, and they haven't been stopped since 1991. So you're looking at a 25-year-old fish, and it was 49 inches long, and it was caught this year. So as we float through woods and everything, it is a warm water, and then it comes out of woods. There's a little cool water there because woods is not that deep. Then it hits Timms, and then it's
Timms
really
gets
cold.
deep.
Timms is 185 foot right there at the dam, a couple hundred yards out, and it is super cold coming out. They have injection of the oxygen going on, and it has really turned that fisheries on. That's why we have the 18-inch brown size limit.
So trout right there at the dam.
Right at the dam. And then as you slowly get past Beans Creek and flow on into Lincoln County there, it changes back over. And that part of that is because the boulder darter down there, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife has mandated that the TVA change their water parameters on their releasing, and that has really picked up smallmouth.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So the boulder darter is, without getting too much into, I remember Bob Hatcher working on that. It's sort of an endangered darter. You got to have a right temperature for them. But you're saying it's warmer down there, so you're going to see more smallmouth and
from the temperature change and everything, and just from visual floating down through there and doing our electrical survey, those smallmouth are moving up. They're growing bigger. The rock bass are moving up. They're growing bigger.
Okay.
It is turning.
It's a public water. I would urge people to go look at it if you're looking for a place to fish. It can be special. So I just would disagree with Dr. Patoli. Hey, let's show some fish real quick. Let's show Bone. Tell me that book. He's coming back. Darrell's coming back in October, and we'll discuss some more. But in the last few minutes, I want to do some fish ID with him and talk about them. This is a book. I know it's hard we can't bring you up close on it, but it's called The Fishes of Tennessee. And it's the greatest book ever about IDing fish in the state, and we're talking about boulder darters and things smaller than them, on up to the biggest fish we got, rockfish and muskie and that kind of
Muskie
stuff.
and everything else. It's every fish that occurs in the great state of Tennessee. It also gives a short list of the lakes and when they was built, and the hydrological units are in there. We actually have several with the Barron River and the Kasanga River out of Chattanooga on the other side of the ridge. The Cumberland River, of course, the Tennessee River, and the Mississippi River.
If it's water, baby,
if
it's
it's
in
water,
here.
baby,
Yeah.
if it's been caught in the state of Tennessee, it is in that book.
David Ettenauer and Wayne Starnes are
David.
all the authors of the book. You're saying folks can get it and download it now.
It is free now. If you'll just Google the fishes of Tennessee and put PDF on the end of it.
PDF.
For a PDF file, Adobe AutoCraft file, whatever. And that will give you the first link up there. It's a trace link from Tennessee EDU, and you can download it for free. It's a 75 megabyte book. And
That's great information.
if you and there's the full text right there, 74.6 megabytes, and published in 1993. They have updated it a little bit, but they're not going to update it anymore. If you
can't
want a
believe it's been
hard
that long.
copy, it's at Amazon for like $150. So.
Yep. Well, I can tell yours as well because if I recall, I've got a copy of it too, and it should be more green than it should be blue.
more. That and rides in the truck and it goes in the field. So we've gone through about 3 of them, and of course I can't get no more anymore. So
You can download it.
I can download it now
Take it,
and
yeah.
start printing my own.
Laminate.
Let's show a couple of fish. Bones has put his hands on a zillion fish, and I want to know the difference in a couple of them. Bones, what is this?
This is a rock bass. You're looking at the model color and the white belly. 7 to 8 anal rays on it. If you notice the pectoral fin down next to my thumb, it will not touch the eye. Small mouth, it does not get past the middle of the eye. I have touched one of those in the mouth of Chisholm Creek that weighed 4 pounds.
And that's another creek in Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, that is a world-class record. And Archie Franks, if you ever listen to the podcast, I know you got that fish.
He went back and got it.
He went
didn't
back and got it.
No, he did. All right, let's show him a warmouth, and I may have to help you there. Well, let's show that. That's
Yep.
a smallmouth and a rock bass side by side. If you haven't been to creeks very often, you can tell the difference in them pretty
You're
good.
looking at that bronze fish, those waves on the cheek. The eye will go to the center. The jaw will go to the center of the eye. More elongated. A fighter from the word get-go. I have seen real pale light ones that people confuse with spotted bass and things like that. So watch out for the smallmouth and the waves on the cheeks and everything like that. And that
Okay.
will tell them
Let's
apart.
look for the one that's a warmouth because these, to me, they look a little bit like a rock bass. If you can get, it's not the bluegill.
Well, they also get confused with the shadow bass too, which we don't have in this area.
Oh, no, we're looking
They're
for
digging.
it.
They're digging for it.
Is that all we got?
I think that's it.
Okay, we may not have the warmouth in it. All right. Okay, well let's show them then a bluegill and a shellcracker. That's the bluegill right there.
You want to look at the bluegill?
That's a shellcracker. Okay.
And the shellcracker with the red ear. That can be different colorations of it depending on what hatchery or what pond they've come from and the temperature of the water. And you're looking at
that orange patch right there is going to tell you everything.
That orange patch on the earlobe is going to tell you everything. And then you'll have a lot of the smaller fish that we have. Well, that's the bluegill right there.
Mm-hmm.
You notice he does not have the red on the end of his ear, but you'll
that
get
blue.
that, if you got that blue. If it's got real elongated on that blue, it's a long ear sunfish. And then we have pumpkin seeds and everything else. But
we may do a show sometime where we just bring in the whole show, just bring in slides and go over so that people understand it. Because in the spring, this is a fish that starts biting. To me, the shellcracker or red ear sunfish starts biting right after the crappie do.
yes.
But right before the bluegill do.
Yep.
So they'll bite at the same time or bed at the same time.
And the
but
strange
they'll
thing
start.
about shellcracker, believe it or not, they will get in on a 3-foot circle. About 10 or 12 fish will be packed into that circle. If you don't hit that circle just right with your bait, you're not going to catch them. Whereas a bluegill will be maybe 30 feet across. They all in that circle, and you can catch them anywhere.
That's a great tip right there, too.
Those shellcrackers seem to get concentrated on that one tight spot, and if you don't hit that spot, you don't get
That's why they're a little tougher to find. But boy, once you find them, you've found gold.
Yep.
There. All right, Bones. We'll do that. We'll maybe in the winter sometime right before the spring, we'll put together a show where we just identify fish.
Okay.
Bones is coming back in October though, We're going to talk about winter trout fishing then and go over a few things that we touched on today a little more in detail too. But look for them in about another 3 weeks. Bones, appreciate you being here.
All right.
You got a T-shirt, by the way.
I know,
Bones got a T-shirt.
Yeah. And we gave that T-shirt away last week. The name slipped me, but anyway, we gave away the T-shirt. Thanks for liking and friending us on Facebook. And
we're going to do some more of that.
yeah, we'll be giving away more of those in the future. But
All
if you want to watch this show and more, just check out TennesseeWildcats.com, TNWildcats.com, or right there on our website, TNWildlife.org. So either way, you can get to us.
All our old shows are out there too, and there's a lot of good information. We'll see you next week.